In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys my side-by-side comparisons between the GoPro 13 and DJI's Action 5 Pro. Ever since these cameras have come out, you guys have not stopped asking me to do a comparison video, so today I am going to be showing you guys this. For the last couple weeks, I have been putting these cameras through every scenario that I personally come across while filming my motorcycle rides, and I'm going to show you guys my conclusive results. Stick around to the end of the video and I'll show you which of these cameras is going to be my future camera that I use on all of my videos.
Now look, I have been pretty open with you guys about my dislike for GoPro cameras for the last few years now, but today as a YouTube professional, I am going to be testing these cameras to help you guys out. So to do that, I'm going to be putting my personal biases aside and just showing you guys the footage I get off of both cameras. Alright, so guys, I'm going to be breaking this video down into a couple different sections, and what I'm going to do is give you guys timestamps right over here. That way, if you guys are looking for something specific, you guys can click directly to that timestamp. Now, just as a note, DJI did send me out their Action 5 Pro weeks ago to do my first impressions video, and I picked up the GoPro 13 myself. No company has any say in anything on this video. So guys, the first section I want to start talking about is the video quality of these cameras, specifically in daylight. Now, testing these cameras back to back, I do have to say in daylight, great conditions with plenty of light, I do feel like the look out of the GoPro is going to be slightly better than the Action 5 Pro, but it's not going to be a lot. After watching hours of footage of both of these cameras in daylight ideal settings, I do have to say the GoPro has a slight edge on the Action 5 Pro. There's just a softness that I really like out of the GoPro footage that the Action 5 Pro doesn't really have. It has that over-sharpened look. I did play around with the settings on the Action 5 Pro, and you can change the sharpness down to -2, and once I did that, it got extraordinarily close to the look of the GoPro. So as far as sharpness goes, it's almost even, but I'll give it a little edge to the GoPro. Now, as far as FOV, the GoPro technically has a wider field of view than the Action 5 Pro, but I noticed this really weird effect that the GoPro had when something like a car would get to the edge of the frame. It almost looked like the car was getting sucked into one of those time warps and it's getting stretched sideways. I didn't notice that as much on the Action 5 Pro, and it was one of those weird things that once I noticed it, because I'm looking at this footage like really closely, once I noticed that, I had a hard time not seeing that anymore. So while the GoPro has a wider field of view, which is cool, I have no issue with how wide the Action 5 Pro is, and I prefer that field of view without that very strange distortion on the side. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably expecting me to jump into all the jittering that the Action 5 Pro has. I'm gonna cover that in the stabilization and the ND filter section. I wanted that to be an entire section so we can talk about it clearly over there. All right, guys, let's talk about ideal settings for bright footage with the Action 5 Pro. I'm shooting in 4K at 24 frames a second. I've got my shutter speed locked to 1/120. I'm using a ND16 with my ISO range of 100 to 3200. I've got my sharpness down to -2, and I'm shooting in ultra wide with rock steady on. That, in my personal opinion, is the best footage you can get on a bright sunny day with the Action 5 Pro. Oh, and in D-Log, and then I color it myself. So guys, when it comes to the GoPro, the settings I'm using are similar. I shoot in 4K at 24 frames a second. My shutter speed, though, is 1/96. You'll find out why. Then I'm shooting with a ND16 on with my ISO range of 100 to 3200. It's in GP log with sharpness at low. And finally, I am on hyper view with hyper smooth on. In my personal opinion, that has gotten me the best results with this camera in bright sunny light. Now guys, I gotta give GoPro credit for how they expose their camera when there is low light. So here in this first clip, you guys can see there's plenty of light, but it's starting to get dark. But what GoPro seems to be doing is they seem to be prioritizing correctly exposing the brightest part of the footage. So during the day right here, you guys can see that's like the sky and everything, and it's letting everything else get really dark. But if we go to nighttime footage, and I go up a couple frames, you guys can see in this city shot, you are actually able to nicely see all the lights on the buildings, especially this building over here in the background. GoPro's doing some pretty cool stuff where they just let things go dark, which I think ends up making the shot look better. And that way you can actually see the things that are bright, because typically they would just overexpose that and just try to expose everything really brightly. So that being said, this sensor just does not bring in enough light for low light shooting, and it gets really dark really fast. The sensor's amazing if it has enough light, and in some situations it looks better than the Action 5 Pro, but if the GoPro isn't getting enough light, this camera falls apart so fast. Now guys, moving on to the Action 5 Pro at low light, it's just a whole different ball game. Obviously you guys can see from this shot, but the sensor is able to take in so much more light. This is the same area that I was showing you guys with the GoPro. Look what the GoPro looks like, and look how much of that dash is just totally gone. It's black. And then if we go over to the Action 5 Pro, it is lit up. Look at the street alone. Look how bright the street is. And now let's go to the GoPro shot. The GoPro shot is actually at a better angle to see the lighting on the street, and you just can't see anything. These buildings up here are gone on the GoPro shot. I'll show you guys. Like, you see no detail here. You see no detail up in here, and the sky is just black. If we go over here to the Action 5 Pro, you can actually see the lights from Atlanta lighting the sky up. You can see the road. You can see these buildings. And if I scroll ahead, you know, I was looking at that building with the GoPro on my helmet, but I mean, like, look at these buildings. You can see all the detail inside of these buildings. It's so different than the GoPro. So if you guys are shooting at low light, you just need a sensor that can take in data like that, and the GoPro just can't really do that. So I mean, it's not even a fair comparison to do these low light tests with these cameras, because the GoPro just can't do it. But I just want to show you guys an example of what the Action 5 Pro can look like shooting in low light. It's pretty fantastic. Also, it should be noted that just because your sensor can show more things, if they looked muddy, it wouldn't even really matter. But can you guys see the detail on all of this stuff on my motorcycle? Like, this is night, and you've got detail. I don't want bright, muddy photos. I want crisp, nighttime shots with plenty of light. And that's what I'm seeing here. Alrighty guys, let's get into stabilization with ND filters and lower shutter speeds, which is probably one of the most contested topics about the Action 5 Pro because it is prone to jittering, and I'll show you guys plenty of stuff here in this video. Now, first off, why would you want lower shutter speeds and ND filters? These cameras, typically, if you have them on auto settings, will have your shutter speed up so high, there's no motion blur while you're riding your motorcycle, and it doesn't make it look like you're going as fast as you actually are, and it's not what your eye is perceiving. Your eye is focused on things ahead of you, and on the side, things rush past, and there's motion to that. To get that look, you have to have your shutter speed lower, and you have to use an ND filter because the lower your shutter speed, the more light comes into your camera. So that's why you see guys like me have ND filters on and have very specific settings like we talked about earlier. Now, the problem with this is that the Action 5 Pro, along with the Ace Pro 2, has jittering effects when you do this. The correct, quote-unquote, correct shutter speed you're supposed to have is double your frame rate. So if I'm shooting at 24 frames a second, my shutter speed should supposed to be 1/48. That's with a regular camera like you guys are looking at me right now. But what I've noticed, and through all of this testing that I've been doing, is that even with the GoPro that doesn't have the jittering issues, there is still so much going on in the frame of an action camera. I like to up my shutter speed so there is less motion blur, because the more motion blur, there's too much stuff going on and too many things get blurred, like road signs and cars and stuff like that. That's why my recommendation in daylight settings is shoot with 1/96 on the GoPro and 1/120 with the Action 5 Pro. The reason I do that with the Action 5 Pro is to give it even more shutter speed, because the more more shutter speed, the less jitters I still have. And in my testing, 120 was that perfect area where I was still getting motion blur in my shot, but I wasn't getting nearly as much jittering. Now, I do want to say, as of recording this video, a few days ago, DJI actually put out a new firmware that when you do that, it massively changes this little jittering effect. And let me show you guys the jittering as it was previously. So as you guys can see in this footage that I'm showing you right now, when the Action 5 Pro is set to something like 1/48 shutter speed, you can see little objects kind of jumping around, and it really doesn't look that good in the footage. Now, like I said, to fix this, all you have to do is up your shutter speed. Now, before this firmware came out, even 1/120 would still give you guys some jitter, but after this new firmware update, it has been massively improved. And one of the things I appreciate the most about this is that DJI is giving us firmware updates to make their cameras better and better based on the feedback they're seeing us give, which makes me feel really good that the camera company actually cares about making the camera better. They're not just shipping us a camera and then just whatever it is, I'm just gonna start working on the next camera. They're actually helping it and improving it as it is right now. And I really appreciate that when a company's putting out a product that I'm gonna invest my money into. Now let's talk about the GoPro for a second. I gotta give props to the GoPro here. Even at shooting the exact same shutter speed, the GoPro's stabilization, however they end up doing that internally with this camera, handles those jitters much better. But even at shooting 1/48, I still noticed a lot of stuff getting blurred, like tiny little objects coming towards me. All of that stuff is still getting blurred in the GoPro, so that's why even with it handling the jittering better, I still want to shoot at a higher shutter speed. I think that's just the best thing I can do for motorcycle filmmaking. Now, I know this is a hotly contested topic online. A lot of people are like, just crank the shutter speed up. Nobody cares about the motion blur, but there's something about riding footage that I really appreciate when it has motion blur. So if it was up to me, I'd be shooting 1/48 on my Action 5 Pro because I really love the motion blur look, but it's not worth that little jittering effect that I'm getting with objects coming towards me. So this is the best of both worlds that I've found. All right guys, next up let's talk about ease of use, and to be honest, this is like my catch-all section where I can talk about lots of little things that I've noticed while doing all of this testing on these cameras. So guys, the first thing I want to touch on in this section is something that just rubs me the wrong way, and that's how GoPro makes you literally buy everything. We've seen ever since DJI's Action 4 and Insta360's Ace Pro, when those cameras came out and introduced those new magnetic mounts that revolutionized how you can use action cameras, it changed the absolute game. And I think all of us realized how much time we were having to spend screwing and unscrewing our GoPros. Now, with the GoPro 13, GoPro has finally brought something that competes with that action camera mount, and they make you pay for it. It's $25 extra, and they can't even add that into the box. I don't appreciate that there's an industry standard of what you should get in a box. You should get at least a camera, you should get a battery, maybe a charging cable, and then the magnetic mount or a mount. You don't get any of that with the GoPro. You literally get the camera and a screw and a cable, I guess. Like that doesn't make sense. All right guys, so let's start off with something on the external part of the camera, and let's start with the GoPro. So on this entire action camera, you have this one door, and inside of that door, you have access to your micro SD card, your battery, and your plug for USB-C. You have to use this door for everything, and I don't love that. I like the way Action 5 Pro or DJI is doing theirs, and I'll tell you why. So with the Action 5 Pro, very similarly, you have a door on this side that gives you access to your micro SD card and your battery. But on the other side, you have this tiny door which gives you access to your USB-C. This is the door that you would take off if you wanted to use their wired mic adapter. Now, the way I use my Action 5 Pro, I'll walk you guys through so you can understand what I don't like about the GoPro. When I get done filming with my Action 5 Pro, I go to my desk, I open up this little side door, and I plug in the USB-C cable that is connected directly to my computer. I'll power the camera on and I'll put it in the file transfer mode. When I do that, the SD card automatically pops up on my computer and I can start transferring my footage all while this is happening, the battery on the Action 5 Pro is getting charged. Because these batteries last so long, I am able to never have to open this side door to get to my micro SD card or my battery. This door for me almost stays shut all the time because I'm constantly dumping more and more footage, so I'm just keeping my battery charged all the time. That is the ideal situation. I never have to mess with my battery, and I never have to mess with that very delicate micro SD card, because the more you take that thing in and out, these things are super tiny, the more you are just asking for something to happen to it, which could lead you to losing footage. If we do that on the GoPro, which, by the way, I know you guys have commented that there's ways to dump footage by connecting your GoPro to the USB-C stuff. I cannot figure out how to do that on a Mac. Every time I plug my GoPro into my Mac, nothing pops up. I've looked through the settings, I can't find it. So, two options. I'm an idiot, probably the truth if we're all gonna be honest, or it's too complicated to figure out if it can actually be done. So even if it's an option, I am having to research. I do this stuff all the time, guys. I'm having to research how to dump my footage off of my GoPro onto my Mac without having to change any crazy settings. Even if I could do that, to get to this, I have to open the door, which gives you access to the battery and gives you access to the micro SD card, which is going to eventually mess them up or something. It's gonna make them wear and tear more than they would if it was like the Action 5 Pro. Don't love that. I know that was a long rant for a door, but it's the tiny things, and I'm using these things every day. Okay, so next up, let's go internal and talk about the menus. Now, using the menus on both cameras, I much prefer the DJI menus. They are far simpler to go through. Everything is where I feel like it should be. And one of the things that really gets on my nerves with the GoPro is if I'm somewhere in my video settings and I've scrolled all the way down to do a setting at the very bottom of the page, to get out of that page, I have to scroll all the way up to get the little back arrow to go back out of that setting page, because it doesn't show up until you go to the very top of the page. The DJI keeps the little arrow at the top all the time. It's little stuff like that that allows me to navigate and use these menus far easier. I also have found that using the touchscreen on my Action 5 Pro seems to respond to me a lot better than the GoPro does. And when you're doing these camera tests, guys, I'm changing settings on both cameras all the time. I'm constantly using the menus. So for you guys, these little menu things might not be a big deal, but as somebody who has been rigorously testing these cameras back and forth for fucking days, like a week, it gets, little things will really get to you. So I much prefer the Action 5 Pro's menus over the GoPros. All right, guys, let's talk about the buttons on the cameras. Both cameras are gonna have a power button on the side, and then they're gonna have a shutter button there on the top. In my experience with motorcycle gloves, I do think the GoPro is about 5% easier to press, especially with like thicker motorcycle gloves, than the Action 5 Pro. This could be a pro or a con because you don't want to accidentally press stuff. In the Action 5 Pro, I think you're going to have a harder time accidentally pressing it, but they both feel really rugged and like they'll stand up to really the abuse that these cameras are probably going to get put through. Also, since we're talking about ease of use, I will note that both cameras are capable of doing quick recording, which means from off, you can hit the record button and they will start recording. As you guys can see, the Action 5 Pro turns on basically instantly, and the GoPro takes a few seconds based on these record times. It looks like the Action 5 Pro turns on and starts recording about 3 seconds faster than the GoPro. That could be the difference in you getting your shot and not getting it. Just as a note, the DJI actually turns off faster as well. Here, I'll do them with you guys. Here, we'll hit them both at the same time. You guys can watch. All right, ready? All right, on your mark, get set. Yeah, that's pretty big difference. Pretty incredible how fast the Action 5 Pro turns on and starts recording though. Alrighty guys, let's talk about the audio quality on both cameras. Audio being even more important in my opinion than video quality. Luckily, we are in an awesome age where both of these have some pretty fantastic options, and we're gonna go over all of them right now. Alrighty guys, we're gonna start off by talking about wired options, and first off we'll hit with the GoPro. To get wired audio into the GoPro, you're gonna need to buy GoPro's Media Mod, which is this big box that you have to put this thing inside of. It costs $80, but it gives you a mic port on the back. You're then gonna need a lavalier microphone like the Purple Panda, which is the $30 mic that you can grab on Amazon. I've been recommending that thing forever, it seems, and it works really good, especially for the price. So I highly recommend it. Links in the description if you guys need to grab another lavalier microphone. I've literally bought probably 10 Purple Pandas in my time doing this. But all in, plus the cost of the camera, you're gonna be looking at $510 to get the GoPro working wired. On the Action 5 Pro, it's not going to be that much different, but DJI does the audio going into their helmet a little differently. All you got to do is buy their little $45 adapter that just plugs in here on the side. That gives you a mic port. If you add that in plus the $30 for that same Purple Panda microphone, your all-in cost to get a wired mic set up on the Action 5 Pro is $425. Now, while that big Media Mod case is going to add a lot of bulk to your GoPro, one of the things I do appreciate about it is that it sends the audio cable out the back of the camera, and I think it gives it a much cleaner look than the Action 5 Pro's adapter sending the audio cable out the side. It just doesn't look nearly as clean. And there's one more thing we have to talk about these two cameras that entirely changes the audio conversation. When it comes to the GoPro, your audio options are what type of microphone you are using. There is no gain control on this camera. That means whatever microphone you put into your Media Mod, that is how loud it is going to be. You can't make it be louder or quieter. So for some people, you're gonna be perfect. Your voice is gonna be the perfect volume, your bike is gonna be the perfect volume, and everything will work out for you. The majority of you guys are gonna have a problem though. So the way DJI gets around that is inside of the Action 5 Pro, you can actually change the gain settings, which essentially is the volume of what your camera is recording the audio at. So let's just say when I motovlog, I yell all the time and my bike is really loud. If I was using the GoPro, my audio would sound like. But on the Action 5 Pro, I can go into the audio settings and I can change my gain all the way down to -20 if I needed to make sure that I'm not being too loud for what it's recording on the camera. Personally, for me, my bike, my setup, I typically find -12 to be like the right amount of gain to get my audio sounding really good in the Action 5 Pro. This is a huge deal. I cannot overstate how important a gain setting is, and the fact that the GoPro doesn't have it, that alone should probably be a reason if you're going to be motovlogging, you probably shouldn't go with the GoPro.
All right, my friends, this is the Action 5 Pro. We've got the mic adapter in, and we've got the Purple Panda $30 microphone hooked up to it. And that's what an acceleration sounds like. And this is the voice that you can, or I guess this is the audio level and quality that you can expect out of that combo. Now I will note that I have my audio gain set at -18 on the Action 5 Pro. And I'm talking at my normal volume. I could talk really quietly if I needed to. And if I got really excited, I would talk like this. So this is what you can expect with that wired combo. Alright guys, now this is what the GoPro 13 sounds like. Now I will note, I only changed the camera out from the front of my helmet. The microphone, the Purple Panda mic, is in the exact same place. And obviously the GoPro uses the Media Mod instead of the mic adapter that the DJI Action 5 Pro uses. So you guys can judge for yourself what this sounds like. I'll talk really low like I did with the Action 5 Pro, and then I'll talk really loud like I did with the Action 5 Pro. And we'll see which one sounds better. This is my normal talking volume, and this is what it sounds like with the GoPro's wired setup, exact same microphone.
Okay, let's move on to wireless audio settings, because if you guys are like me, you love these cameras for them being action cameras. They are rough, they are tumble, they can handle elements. When you start adding things like the Media Mod and the Action 5 adapter for the audio, you mess up how waterproof these things are, and you make them bigger naturally, especially the GoPro with the Media Mod. When it comes to using wireless audio though, the cameras can literally stay just like they come and you can just wirelessly connect your audio sources. Luckily, DJI's Mic 2, the Mic 2s that I use on all my videos, can connect to both cameras, which I do think is really cool. Also, they're only $100. I thought they were way more expensive, and then I looked them up for this video and I'm like, $100 for a Mic 2 is nuts. That thing can shoot 32-bit float audio. I'm not gonna go down this deep path, but for $100, it's fantastic. So the way to connect the Mic 2 to both cameras is relatively simple. With the Action 5 Pro, all you do is go into the wireless audio settings, click on one of the transceivers, you put the DJI Mic 2 into Bluetooth mode by holding that link button, and it will pop up, and it gives you a couple settings that you can do inside of the camera. One of the really neat things with the Action 5 Pro is, one, you can connect two Mic 2s, but when I hit record on the Action 5 Pro and there's a Mic 2 connected, it will automatically start recording on the Mic 2 with its 32-bit float audio. It can't record 32-bit float audio on the actual camera, it has to record it on the microphone, but that is the way to get the absolute highest quality you possibly can with this camera. Now, when we're talking about the GoPro, it's a little bit different of a story. So one, it's really cool that you can even pair the Mic 2 to the GoPro 13. All you gotta do is go to the Bluetooth settings, put the Mic 2 into Bluetooth pairing mode, and then it will pop up on your GoPro. You can hit it and it will connect. The problem is, I can't even be mad about it, but when you connect the Mic 2 to the GoPro, you will get audio into the GoPro. It will not sound as good, and even if you try to manually press the record button on the Mic 2 to get the 32-bit float audio recording on the Mic 2, it will not let you if it's Bluetooth connected to the GoPro. Now, obviously there's a way around this. You just don't connect a Mic 2 to your GoPro, and you just have to hit the record button on the mic, and then you have to hit the record button on your GoPro, clap, sync it in post, blah, blah, blah. Part of me understands that, why DJI is doing that, but I do think it's hilarious that they're like, nope, if it's connected to your GoPro, we will not let you hit the record button.
All right, and now you guys are listening to me on the Action 5 Pro wireless setup. I got the camera attached, or connected, I guess, to the DJI Mic 2 just through Bluetooth. Now, if you're fans of my other content, you guys are fans of the channel, you guys probably hear me sound like this all the time, because this is the setup that I use almost. The only difference with my normal everyday camera setup is that I'm using the DJI Action 5 Pro connected with two Mic 2s. Now, if you're curious about that setup, I'll put a link in the description down below for you guys to check out to see all the details of it. But what I do is I use one other microphone to get good sound of the motorcycle, but the GoPro can only connect to one Bluetooth device at a time, so it's not even fair to compare the audio of two Mic 2s to only one. But regardless, this is how the Action 5 Pro sounds with the Mic 2 connected to it.
Now, one of the things I get asked all the time by every one of you guys in my action camera reviews is about quick capture. If you guys don't know what that is, that's when you have a camera, you hit the record button when the camera's off. What happens afterwards? I somehow get this in every one of my videos that I make about action cameras from you guys. I don't ever do that, but apparently a lot of you guys do. Now, to test all of this for you guys, I took both cameras out, I tried them wired, I tried them wireless, and I did quick capture on both. These are all tests, and I'll let you guys see what happened.
Holy shit, is it recording already? God, dude, that's nuts. All right, guys, this is quick capture on the Action 5 Pro wireless setup. So I have the mic adapter installed. I've got the Purple Panda mic inside of my helmet just as I had it before. And all I did, I haven't changed any of the quick capture settings, if there are any. I haven't even looked into that. I literally just hit the shutter button, the little red button on the top to make it record. And that is it. And this is what happens when you do that with a microphone setup. All right, I just hit the record button on the GoPro. I have got the media mod connected to the GoPro and the Purple Panda microphone going directly into my helmet. This is testing out the quick capture, I think is what it's called. This is where I have had some Not greatest luck with the GoPro with just hitting the record button. The microphone sometimes has an issue, the stabilization sometimes has an issue. So I have very little faith that this is looking and sounding like it's supposed to. Alrighty, this is quick capture test on the GoPro. We are going. Okay. So here's what I did, guys. I know a lot of you guys asked me about the record button. We're doing a quick capture test on the Action 5 Pro with the Bluetooth connection now. Similar to the GoPro, all I did was I had the camera on, made sure the mic 2, which you're hearing me on hopefully right now, was connected. I turned the camera off for 30 seconds, and then all I did was hit the capture button at the top. I do not know what you guys are hearing right now, but if everything works out, you are hearing me through the mic 2, and trust me, if it was not connected to the mic 2, you wouldn't hear me at all right now. So if we're recording like normal and you guys can hear me totally fine, then that's incredible actually, because the Action 5 Pro still turned on just as fast as it did with the wired setup. It started recording in less than a second, and if it was able to do all of that and connect me to my audio setting, that would be awesome. And I'm really curious now if my mic 2 is doing the internal recording, because if it can do all that within a second or less than a second, I will be thoroughly even more impressed. All right, let's cut back to chasing the office.
Alright guys, let's talk about battery life next, a super important stat for these Action cameras. Now, first off, let's set the scene. To test this out, I set both cameras out on my patio and I just let them record. It was about a 70-degree day and they were in the shade the entire time. Now, the GoPro ran for an hour and 40 minutes in 4K 24 frames a second mode, at which point it overheated and turned off. That's what happened. Next, on the Action 5 Pro, I did the exact same situations, shot in 4K, 24 frames a second with a full battery, and I got 3 hours and 33 minutes of recording. The camera did not overheat at all. It literally just ran out of battery and shut down. Now, when I did my Action 5 Pro review, this is one of the huge highlights of this camera, is how incredibly long that battery life is. If you guys want to shoot in 1080p, this camera will run for 4 hours and 10 minutes, which is absolutely insane. Now, as far as pricing on these batteries, an extra GoPro battery is going to cost you $30, and if you want another Action 5 Pro battery, it is going to cost you $32. I will note that the GoPro battery that it's using is a brand new battery and will not work in any of your previous GoPros. So if you guys have had GoPros for a while and you're gonna grab a GoPro 13 and you have all these batteries laying around that somehow haven't gotten big and exploded and stuff, they won't work. So you gotta get new batteries. So that kind of sucks. I guess in the same vein, if you have an Action 5 Pro and you have an Action 4, these new 1950 milliamp hour batteries that the Action 5 Pro comes with will work with the Action 5 Pro. So we appreciate the backwards compatibility. Also, quick note on the battery chargers that the companies make. So GoPro doesn't really have a good option here. Now, they do have a double battery charger that the batteries will stick in the top of, but I never feel safe putting that inside of my backpack or my motorcycle bag because the battery could literally just fall out. DJI does a fantastic job with this. They have a very slim little case that can fit 3 batteries. It has one USB port on the side that you can fast charge all of the batteries up, and it magnetizes shut. There's also a button on the front that you can hit, and if a battery is above 80%, you'll get a little green light, and it's, I think, under 80%, it gets a little orange light. So you can check your battery stats and all that kind of stuff. DJI is doing it way better. Now, I have tried some GoPro stuff off Amazon, you know, some third-party battery things, but they all feel super cheap, and I've never trusted using any of those things, unfortunately. Alright guys, let's finally hit on price. The Action 5 Pro is coming in at $350 and the GoPro is coming in at $399. So $50 price difference, but it doesn't end there because with the Action 5 Pro and the Ace Pro that you guys have seen, they have been introducing these new magnetic mounts that all the cameras can use. With the GoPro, They don't include that. Even though GoPro literally just released their brand new magnet mount that the camera can work with, so you don't have to do the pain of unscrewing the camera every time. And somehow they're making you pay for it. They're literally not including it, even though every other camera company is including an easy to use magnetic mount. So because of that, the price is not that. It's $399 for the camera, and then you gotta pay another $25 for the quick mount. So I'm considering that this camera costs $425 and this one is $350. That's just even. So guys, to wrap things up, with the GoPro 13, if everything works and there's plenty of light, this camera looks fantastic. I will not argue with you guys there. The only problem is, for somebody that is filming all the time, how willing am I for there to just randomly be issues where I just won't have my footage, like there was on the motovlogging run when all of the footage started rotating sideways, or the battery overheats like it did in my battery test. That leads me to the overall question of this video is this GoPro 13, who has failed multiple times and other GoPros have failed on me as well, is that potential of failure worth the 2% extra image quality that you get when using NDs and lower shutter speeds? Here's the thing, guys. At the end of the day, I don't really care what camera you buy. I'll have affiliate links for both of them in the description down below, and either of those links that you guys use will support the channel, and I appreciate it. But for a guy like me that uses action cameras every day for a living, having a camera that I can hit record, I know I have good video, I know I have good audio, and has literally never failed me, neither has its predecessor ever failed me, and I have battery life like that, there is no question what camera I am going to be choosing. I just can't hope and pray that I have my footage at the end of the day. I need to know that I have it, and the Action 5 Pro has never let me down. The Action 4 has never let me down. That's what I'm gonna be using. If you guys made it to this point in the video, I really appreciate you guys. Make sure to hit that like button down below if this video helped you guys out. Outro crew, let me know what camera you're gonna be choosing in the comments down below. I'm Chaseontwowheels. You guys go out there and ride safe, and I'll see you on the next one. With my Action 5 Pro. Definitely not the GoPro 13. Sorry, GoPro. I have no problem with you. I have a problem with not having my footage at the end of the day, which is something that you give me. So that's the problem. Thanks, everybody.